Hello and welcome to another 101 class. Yeah, people have been asking for this for a while, for a new 101 class, so I'm going to deliver on a storyline here that was pretty big in the 90s and I enjoyed, and it is the Age of Apocalypse from X-Men. So sit down, stick around, and as always, enjoy. Alright, so just to put you guys into a little, kind of put you in the mood or in the mindset of when this all took place. In the 90s, DC had some big success with two huge storylines for two of their major characters. They had Nightfall from Batman, and they had the death and subsequent return of Superman, which did very well. The two of them did very well. And Marvel thought it was about high time they bring the next epic in, something that'll, turn the universe on its ear. So they devised storylines for two of their best-selling books, X-Men and Spider-Man. And for Spider-Man, we got the shitty storyline, as you all know, that I despise, the Clone Saga. And in X-Men, we got the Age of Apocalypse, which was good. So we got one bad, one good. One for two, 50-50. Yeah! So this is a story of the Age of Apocalypse. Basically, the Age of Apocalypse, it starts off with Charles Xavier's son, Legion, okay, who has multiple personalities. His real name is David Haller. He has issues. Alright, the guy has multiple personalities. He's always been kind of pissed off after his dad, after Charles Xavier. And then in one, oh my god, I see normal now. I can actually make sense of the world. An aha moment, thinks to himself, you know what, I'm going to redeem myself in my father's eyes. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to save him a whole lot of trouble. And I'm going to go back into the past and kill Magneto. If I go back to the beginning, before the X-Men were formed, kill off Magneto, then everything should be awesome! Like, butterflies will be fucking playing in bands and shit. It'd be really, really cool. So I was like, alright, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna go back in the past and kill Magneto. Now, when he gets this idea, some of the X-Men are like, holy fuck, no, you can't do that. You can't go back and kill Magneto. That's lunatic. So, some of them follow him back in time in order to stop him because he is a very powerful mutant and he has the power to time travel. So, Bishop and a few other of the X-Men go back in time to try to stop him. He goes back in time to the time when Xavier and Magneto kind of met together during the World War. And he goes to kill Magneto, starts spewing shit at Magneto like, you're the most evil person in the universe, you know what I mean? I'm gonna put an end to this now, blah, blah, blah. Magneto doesn't have a flying fuck what this guy's saying. He's like, what? Who the fuck are you? Like, it's Eric Lencher. Who the fuck's Magneto? Like, what's happening? So, he goes to kill Magneto. Now, Charles Xavier, being the super awesome, cool mutant friend he is, kind of gets in between them and subsequently he gets killed. So Legion makes a mistake of, instead of killing Magneto, by mistake he ends up killing Professor X. Now, by killing Professor X, it changes everything. So the whole dynamic, the whole world changes. And that's what the Age of Apocalypse is. When he kills him, all the mutants that were there to try to help them disappear. Legion himself disappears because he no longer exists, because Xavier never existed. And the only person that's left there is the person who time travels himself, Bishop. So Bishop's the only guy left who actually knows what the fuck's supposed to happen, or how was it supposed to look like. What should have happened. You know what I mean? What the future looks like if Xavier would have lived. He knows both timelines. So he's the only player in here who doesn't really, well, not the only one, but he doesn't really buy what Magneto's selling, because he knows what Magneto can become. But would he have become that person had he have had a different choice if he would have founded the X-Men? And that's kind of what the Age of Apocalypse is all about Magneto forming the X-Men and battling this new threat that's taken over the world. So in this alternate future, Apocalypse has taken over the world. Yes, our man Apocalypse. Not taken over the world, but he's taken over North America. And he's eradicated a lot of humans. He eradicates the mutants that don't follow him. He has a few mutants on his side, and we'll get to that later. The ones that don't follow him, though, are generally he tries to put them out. So he rules North America. The humans have kind of built a human, we'll call it, a reliance or an association. They've gotten together and are trying to get rid of Apocalypse. And they're trying to get rid of pretty much all mutants at the same time, I guess, as they perceive them to pretty much to be mostly all threats. They're in what's called Eurasia now. As Europe, Asia, the whole Western world, or I should say the Eastern world, actually. We're in the West. My God, geography! So, all of the East has all merged together kind of as one big continent. And that's where the humans are. They're there. There's still some pockets of humans left in North America. And Magneto and the X-Men try to get those peoples to safety. They try to battle Apocalypse, but at the same time, they try to rescue the humans and send the humans off to Eurasia and evacuate them there because they're not safe in North America. Because Apocalypse will kick the fuck out of anybody that gets in his way. So that's kind of the war that's happening. So there's a war with the mutants, the X-Men, and Apocalypse. There's a war between the humans and Apocalypse. But there's also still a war between some humans and some mutants as well. Because, let's face it, they never really trusted each other to begin with. So those types of negative emotions still exist in this world. But that's pretty much the dynamic. Now, on Apocalypse's side, what we have is we have Apocalypse at the top. He has his horsemen, and Mr. Sinister is one of the horsemen. What happened differently in this timeline is that Sinister actually got to the Summers brothers. He got to Alex and Scott. He got to Havoc and Cyclops before Xavier ever did. So he's kind of like their father figure to them. He's like their mentor. And they're called, their technical role or technical name in the hierarchy, they're prelates. They're like supreme commandos. And Scott's always favored. He's favored by Apocalypse. He's favored by Mr. Sinister. And that drives Scott nuts. Not Scott, sorry. Alex. So Scott... Holy shit, I gotta get this shit straight. Scott, Cyclops, is favored, and Alex, Havoc, is pissed off about it. And he wants to take over Scott's position. He wants to be like kind of like third in command, if you will, in a hierarchy. And he'll do anything to get that. He will betray his brother. He even said he would kill his brother. He doesn't give a shit. He wants power. He wants respect. And you can see the evilness in him. And on Scott's side, you can see him doing what they want, Apocalypse and Mr. Sinister, but questioning and not really feeling comfortable with what's going on. So you kind of see the good in him. Even though he was raised to be bad, there still is good in him. Because that's the way he should have turned out later on. So that's kind of their thing. Magneto formed the X-Men. Now, this is a different Magneto. He's good. He's a good guy, for the most part. He does some shit you kind of question once in a while, but you know what I mean? It's Magneto after all. But it's cool to see the dynamic that he has if he were to have, taken a different path. If he were to have agreed with Charles's vision of mutant and normal Homo sapiens being equals. So what happens is a little different here. After Mystique will rescue Rogue and bring Rogue to Magneto, Magneto and Rogue get together. they become, they actually become kind of like a courtship. They have a child. And Magneto names the child Charles, after Charles Xavier. And this child, for those of you who've watched my Exiles 101, he appears in Exiles, actually, which is kind of neat. A lot of the characters from the Age of Apocalypse are in Exiles, which is kind of why I like Exiles so much, because not only is it like Quantum Leap, but it's Quantum Leap with these Age of Apocalypse characters that I don't get to see anymore, that I actually kind of gotten to love. So, they have a kid. Now, before they have this kid, Gambit, as you know, Gambit and Rogue are a couple. They're good together before the Age of Apocalypse starts. Now, after we have Charles wiped out and everything changes, or everything's changed, where they weren't a couple, Magneto still has, not Magneto, Gambit still has feelings for Rogue. What he doesn't know is that Rogue has feelings for Magneto. And so Gambit and Magneto are really close. They're like buds, like best buds. But Magneto kind of doesn't know what Gambit thinks of Rogue. And when Gambit finally fesses up to it, to Magneto, like, oh man, you know, I got a crush on this girl. I mean, at school, look at her, she got a white in her hair. She's a redhead, gingers are so hot. And he's like, holy fuck, what are you, Rogue? I'm tapping that, dude. I've been tapping that. And, so then it causes a rift between Magneto and Gambit. So Gambit gets pissed off after Magneto, he gets pissed off after Rogue, and he says, you know what, I'm getting the fuck out of here, and he starts his own little merry band of mutants, the Externals, and they're all together. Now, they will help Magneto again later in the story, but for a few years, he stays away. So he starts his own shit. So since we're talking about kids right now, Magneto and Rogue's kid, there's another kid that comes on the scene during the Age of Apocalypse. Since Sinister got his hands on Scott Summers, first on Cyclops, he also has another mutant in the pens, what they call the pens. It's where they take all the mutants and they lock them up. It's kind of like a penitentiary. Yeah. And, so they lock them up, and they're subjected to horrible, horrible experiments by what's known as the Dark Beast. Yes, Hank McCoy in the Age of Apocalypse is a fucking raving scientific lunatic that loves to do genetic experiments and torture the shit out of people. He's bad. So, in the Age of Apocalypse, in the breeding pens, as they're called, Mr. Sinister has Beast get some DNA from one of the mutants that they have captured, Jean Grey. And he takes that DNA, Scott Summers' DNA, and puts it together. Now, in the normal Marvel continuity, or in the alternate Marvel-verse, as we'll call it, Scott and Jean did have a kid, and Sinister aged it by infecting it with a virus. And that kid is who we know as Cable. So, Cable, the offspring of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, or as it was known at the time, gets aged by Sinister. Now, since this is a different timeline now, and he has the DNA to both, he creates this powerful X-Men, but doesn't age him, because he's like, holy fuck, why am I going to age this dude? He'll be under my control. And he calls that guy Nate, which is short for Nathaniel, because Nathaniel Essex is Sinister's real name. So Sinister calls this kid Nathaniel and gives him his mother's last name, Grey, so calls him Nate Grey for short. Nate Grey will become one of the most, or the most powerful mutant in history. He is Cable without bounds. And he possesses the powers of Jean Grey. He possesses the powers of Cyclops. This guy can do shit that is insanity. And the character actually was over so good during the Age of Apocalypse that when they finished the storyline, when they ended it and did the whole retcon, which we'll get to later on, they took him out of that universe and brought him into the current Marvel timeline because the character was so popular. And he went on from, what, 95 to like 2001, I think, in comics. So he was a really popular character. So speaking of Jean Grey, we're going to get into this too. Jean Grey left the X-Men. This is what happened. When Jean Grey was captured and put into these breeding pens, nobody went to save her. Magneto didn't go to save her. None of the X-Men with Magneto went to go save her. One X-Men that wanted to go save her, as you can probably guess who that would be, if it's not Cyclops, who's bad, who else has this huge infatuation with Jean Grey? Wolverine. Yes, Logan. Or as he's called in this universe, as he's not called Wolverine, he's called Weapon X, which is the program that made him who he is. Weapon X wants to save Jean Grey because he has a huge crush on her, probably because she's ginger and gingers are awesome. I don't really know. But he loves her and he wants to save her. So when Magneto and his friends, the X-Men, say, you know what, it's too dangerous, we're not going in there to help her out, we're not going to go save her, it's too dangerous. Wolverine says, you know what, go fuck yourself, go stick a magnet up your ass, I'm going. So, poof, he goes. He goes and battles in the pens to save Jean Grey. And he does! He saves her single-handedly, and there's no pun intended, because after he saved her, he only had one hand left. Yes, Cyclops got his other hand. So now Wolverine walks around with a claw in one hand and a metal stub on the other. And, I mean, he could have at least put a pirate's hook on there. Or 3 pirate hooks. You know what I mean? It kind of look better. But anyways, he just has a stub. I don't get it. Why not have like 3 pirate hooks? And then you could still kind of be like Wolverine. Stick. I don't know. Anyways. So yeah. So they kind of go off and do their own thing, those two, because Wolverine's like, or Weapon X, I should say, he's like, you know what? Fuck Magneto. He didn't want to help us. We're doing our own thing, babe. And Jean Grey, she kind of loves him in a way, but she kind of doesn't in another. And it's hard. I don't know if it's kind of like because he saved her and she's all like gaga. Not gaga, but like, well, he kind of saved me. He's not really cute, but he did save me. I don't know. But anyway, their relationship is kind of strange, and it'll get stranger too. So what they do is they go over to Eurasia, where it's safe, and they kind of join the human resistance. So the human resistance welcomes these 2 mutants. They join up with them there. And they'll do little odd missions in that for them and help them out. You know, and they get sanctuary out of it, I guess. So all these dynamics are happening at the same time. But when Magneto goes and he'll meet up with Gambit again, and he meets up with Gambit, or he meets up with Colossus's group, or he'll meet up with his X-Men, or he'll go down to the good old club called Heaven. Yes, there still is Heaven in North America, and it is run by Angel, the hottest nightclub in town, where all the bitches are there, and it's awesome. Fucking awesome. So Angel is running a nightclub called Heaven. Angel is kind of like the dude that knows everything that's going on within the city and all that. And the good guys go there to have, well, actually not the good guys, mostly the people who work for Scott Summers and them, these prelates. They go in there for drinks and all that. But at the same time, you have some people there, spies are in there and shit. It's where all the shit goes down. It's kind of like in Tron, in the new movie Tron, like that fucking club where everybody goes to and like all this shit's going down and he fucking runs the show there. That's what it is. That's kind of what it is. So it's a fucking... So Warren Worthington is actually... Apocalypse looks at him kind of like, you know what, I'll allow him to operate type thing because he could get us some valuable information. But the fucking dude's playing both sides. He's playing 15 sides. All he wants to do is be profitable and continue to exist and enjoy his life. So he doesn't give a shit who he screws over. So there's actually some pretty cool reading that goes on in the club. So you're going to have to go read this because you're going to have to read those things. So anyways... He makes deals with everybody. Magneto will go there and ask for a favor, and he'll do it for Magneto. Or he'll help Scott Summers, he'll help Alex Summers. He just doesn't care. He's just a fucking turncoat. He gives a shit who he helps. As long as it's good for him in the end, that's all he cares about. And but everybody else that's semi-good will follow Magneto's orders, and he'll visit all these different like X-Men factions, if you will, and get them to do stuff. And he's gonna send some to, because see, something I should mention too. Remember when I said Bishop knows Xavier was killed because he jumped in a way, and he knows that Magneto, what he'll become and all that. He knows what Legion, he knows the whole thing. He remembers everything that happened. So he'll come to Magneto, he'll accuse Magneto of being all these things. So in the beginning they'll detain him, then they'll kind of trust him a little more. This is going to cause a lot of uneasiness between the groups, between the X-Men. Because they're like, you know what if this fucking dude's right? And Magneto really is the fucking purest, scummiest vial of the universe, and we're helping this guy out. Like, what if he really, you know what I mean? What if people don't change? That's his genetic makeup. That's who he's going to become regardless. And you begin to see a lot of dissension between everybody and Magneto. And Magneto doesn't really care about it. He's like, you know what? I understand why you feel that way. I feel that way too. I want to know what the fuck's this Bishop guy talking about? And is this all true? So he'll send one group of the X-Men over to find Destiny, because Destiny can see the future. So they're looking for Destiny in part of this story. And then he's sending another group to get a crystal in order to fix reality, if that's what the problem is. So he's sending them to get the crystal at the same time. So he's doing all these things. He's micromanaging all these little groups of X-Men, all led by different like sub-leaders like Gambit or Nightcrawler or Colossus. And he's sending them all out to just do all these errands in order for everything to come back together. Because ultimately, his real beef, his battle, Magneto's battle, is going to be with Apocalypse. As soon as Legion killed Xavier, Apocalypse said, holy fuck, this is the time for me to move in. So it took him a while to get in there. Finally, Apocalypse got to Earth and fucked up North America and took it over. Because the gel wasn't there. Xavier was the gel, and the gel wasn't there. Right now you've got a whole bunch of different bands of X-Men running around separate, and nobody really trusts fully Magneto. And the humans, which are now planning a nuclear strike, oh my god, on North America. It's crazy! It's crazy! These Eurasians on the other side of the world are like, holy fuck, we gotta stop Apocalypse, and we gotta stop these mutants. So what we're gonna do is what everybody seems to want to do anytime there's a problem, whether it be in a movie or in a comic book. Let's nuke the fuck out of everyone. That's the only thing that makes sense. Nothing else works. Should we, so what do you think, Human Consul? Should we go in and maybe try to assassinate Apocalypse, or, I don't know, take his power away, or something like that? No need for that. I mean, you know, that's, might be expensive that way. How about you try to nuke them first? Yeah, nuke the fuck out of them first, and if anybody survives, then we might go to plan B. Yeah. So, they plan to nuke this shit out of North America. What happens then? You got Wolverine and Jean Grey that are in that group right now. And although Wolverine's like, you know what? Fuck them, nuke them. You know, that's Wolvie. Wolvie doesn't really give a shit about much. But Jean Grey, though, she's like, you can't kill all those people. Like, if you nuke them, and if you even kill Apocalypse and the prelates and all them, well, you're gonna kill all the rest of these people out there too, the people who are trying to get out of America, those refugees, as they're becoming, and all the people that are still staying in America that are hiding. You're going to destroy all those lives. And she's like, no, I can't have that happen. So she finds the goodness in her heart that she wants to fly back to North America, and she wants to warn the X-Men of what the human resistance is planning to do. Wolverine is not impressed in the beginning because he's all sad about it, and he's like, You know, I don't want you to go there. You know, I don't want to risk losing you and all that. But when it's all said and done, Wolverine can't stop her. It's her decision. And she decides, I'm going to North America. I'm going to warn the X-Men. And she wants to put an end to Apocalypse. And she's haunted by shit that happened in the pens. And the breeding pens. And she's haunted by Scott Summers. So she's going down to visit all these people. And you won't imagine what happens next. Alright. You know when you watch TV and you get that episode, you're watching it and you're like, fuck man, yeah, fuck, this is so good, this is so good, shit, oh fuck man, what's gonna happen? Then you look at your clock and you're like, oh fuck, there's only like 4 minutes left, there's no way they're gonna be able to tie this up. Then you're like, oh shit, something, oh no, then something monumental happens on the screen, something crazy happens, and you're like, holy fuck, and then those words, those 3 fucking words appear on the screen. And then you get so mad about it because you're like, what the fuck? No, I can't do that. I can't do that. But you have to. Oh my god, it's gonna crash! Ah! Ah! Oh, fuck my back!